Thank you, Toxic Red. Do you think Walksnail will ever catch up to DJI? Thanks for a $2 super chat. Short answer, no. Longer answer, no. Okay, I love that joke. I'm sorry. No one will catch up to DJI. DJI has, like, no one. Who has ever caught up to DJI? Right? Like, you could argue that there are things about DJI you don't like. Anti-competitive business practices, ties to the Chinese government, etc. You could argue those things. I'm not arguing those things. That would be silly for me to take that stance here on a live stream. There's no reason for me to like make political statements and put myself in the freaking firing line. But one thing you can't say about DJI is that their tech is like not the best. DJI's tech is the best. They make amazing drones that do things that no one else does at price that is shocking, and they just keep innovating every 6 months, every 18 months, every 12 months, whatever it is. They just keep innovating with new stuff. So no, Walksnail will not catch up to DJI. No one will catch up to DJI. But here's the thing. No one will catch up to DJI at the things that DJI does. We got a little bit of a Sun Tzu situation here, right? I don't know the exact Sun Tzu quote that applies, but basically, if DJI is good at is the best at these things, then for Walksnail to like catch up or beat them, they have to do the things that DJI doesn't do or is bad at. And the things DJI is good at is making a video system that is freaking bananas good. They've had years of practice. They have billions of dollars in revenue. No one's going to beat them. No one's going to make a better video system than them. Like I'm just saying. If they do, it'll be shocking. But what Walksnail can do and is doing is making products that DJI will not make. Right? The 1S video transmitter. DJI didn't make that. Full support for DJI for Betaflight OSD. DJI did that eventually. Still doesn't support iNav or ArduPilot though. There's all these ways in which Walksnail is making products that DJI doesn't or won't make, and that's so to me the way I see Walksnail is Walksnail makes an FPV video system that like if DJI is like S tier, Walksnail's like B tier. Maybe B plus tier. Maybe A tier. I don't know. Somewhere between B and A. That's still pretty good. Right? I don't think Walksnail will ever be S tier. And if they are, DJI will redefine what S tier is so that Walksnail's still A tier or B tier. But Walksnail does a whole bunch of things and makes a whole bunch of products that DJI will never make. And so that's why they're still a competitor and still viable and still I'm glad that they're here in the market for us.
Just so that it's said, also, DJI, from what we know, DJI works with Leadcore or a company making Leadcore style chips to make the chips that they get produced for them, basically.
Yep.
Walksnail is buying an off-the-shelf, technically, chip from a company called Artisan. Mm-hmm. So there's a level of things they can demand / do / whatever. You know, when we see new chips come out, like the 20-kilometer thing we're hearing, that's just a label that's on the new Artisan chip that it can do out of the box, right? So we're sort of getting a dev kit solution that they're tacking into something they're making for us. So I don't think you can ever expect that second-hand thing to be as good as DJI's direct-to-consumer thing with their billion-dollar drones already building that into it.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah, when I say that, I don't mean that that's like a defect. I don't mean that Walksnail is like bad at what they do. I'm just saying that like if I were to start an F1 team and be like, I'm going to make F1 cars, I don't have the resources to compete with Ferrari or McLaren. Like, I don't. I'm never going to make an F1 car as good as a Ferrari or a McLaren. And in the same way, Blunty, what you're saying, like DJI, they're not fighting fair. They're not fighting on equal ground. They have billions of dollars in revenue. They have sales numbers that no one can touch. And so then they go and they say, they don't go and they buy an off-the-shelf system on a chip and then they adapt it. They go and they make their own. And no one else can do that because no one else has the money and sales numbers to justify that. And that's why they're going to be S tier. They're going to continue to redefine what S tier is while everybody else plays catch up with the crumbs that fall off their table. But that doesn't mean that that no one else is competitive.
And just one more thing, since we're on it, that you know, when we think about like HD0 and how HD0 made a gap in the market, that's because Carl made a custom chip. You know, that's another custom solution that was built for the application. When you're not doing that, I respect Walksnail so much for what they're able to do with an off-the-shelf chip that they were able to make a deal for to get into a system to then build like they are. I think it's actually really incredible what we've got. You know, and I think it bodes well for the future. I just think you have to look at that perspective of like HD0 has their own custom thing to get the lowest latency and to get what they're doing. DJI has their own custom thing because they have billions of dollars of drones that they can build all that money through, and that would never happen if it was FPV only. And then Walksnail is just making it happen, even without both of those.
No, in some ways, what Walksnail has done is more impressive because of how close they've gotten. Like before Walksnail, everybody else who tried to do it was like C or D tier at best. The fact that Walksnail got to like A/B tier with the resources and hardware they have is like extraordinary. So, all right. Quad City Bay Area, thank you for a $5 super chat. What's your opinion on digital FPV will keep upgrading? Is there a ceiling? I don't think we've hit the ceiling yet. I think that we will continue to make advancements. We know that the next generation is already on deck, and people are claiming 4 to 5 times the range of current systems. Reality, of course, will never measure up to that, but I don't think we've hit the ceiling yet, and I don't know when we will hit the ceiling. I mean, look at Wi-Fi. Well, why is that a good analogy? At the end of the day, digital FPV systems are just wireless digital data systems that move video data through the air, right? If you look at Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi has continued to get faster and faster. Although in the last couple iterations of Wi-Fi, they've had to do things like go to 6 gigahertz or go to different frequency bands to get the higher data rates that they require, right? So in some ways, Wi-Fi is kind of leveling off. Technically, Wi-Fi 6 can do like, I don't know, I think it's like 1.3 gigabits per second. But in reality, most people using Wi-Fi 6 won't get that data rate. They'll get a lower data rate. And it's not that much different than like the previous iterations of Wi-Fi. So we see that Wi-Fi has achieved extraordinary things, but also they're pushing the ceiling, but the actual real-world experience isn't climbing that much. I think we have room for digital FPV to continue to push the ceiling. Eventually, we may hit a ceiling. I don't think we're there yet, though.